Most of the room was populated by a lot of veterans who were there to support Pete Hegseth. My next guest is among the veterans who marched into D.C. to signal their support for his confirmation. Bill Brown is here. He's a former Navy SEAL. Sir, good to have you with us.
Hey, good. It's great to be on. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well. And so tell me a little bit about yourself and what you organized today in support of Pete Hegseth.
Well, it wasn't just myself. I had a whole team of Navy SEALs and veterans with us. And I think it's a huge statement when you have literally over, 400 veterans that come to Capitol Hill, at least 50 SEALs. It's a huge statement that we made.
Yeah.
And the reason why we made it is because we're so concerned about what's happening in our military. And it's really about protection. That's really what the military is there to do. It's about protecting us. And that's why we became so concerned because, look, when you give trillions of dollars worth of military equipment to jihadists that are bent on destroying our way of life,
yep,
you're definitely not. And they had American blood on their hands. I mean, that's true. That's not protecting us. When you let a Chinese spy balloon go over sensitive military installations, that's not protecting us. Like that's totally against what the military is supposed to be about. Or even with all these sophisticated weapon systems that are portable, you can't have a wide open border. Like you could say one thing like, hey, if you don't vet people, you'll have incidents like in New York where someone gets burned alive. But we're talking about weapon systems that can destroy cities. Like you fell asleep during 9/11. You saw what just happened to Israel when they fell asleep on October 7th. Like it's worse. It's not just about politics. It's not a Republican or Democratic thing. Mm-hmm. It's an American thing. And that's why the war fighting community is really concerned.
Yes. The nomination of a Secretary of Defense is not typically a partisan affair. It hasn't been in the past. It's not typically that controversial. Lloyd Austin was confirmed by almost every senator, Democrats and Republicans alike. And yet I saw today all these Democrats were working very hard to try and defeat Pete Hegseth's nomination. Why do you think that is, Bill Brown?
Well, to be sincere, you saw what happened with the election where they'll do anything and everything possible to retain power. They used lawfare, which undermined our due process, undermined our criminal justice system, undermined our entire legal system, and actually the Constitution of the preamble, we the people decide who we want to be elected. They used woke-fare with what they're using with Pete. So, they're short-term thinkers, and they just want to retain power any means possible. There's a lot of entrenched establishment within the Pentagon. And so what's happening here is they've shown that they'll put any other interest above we the people to retain power. That's why they opened up the border. They opened up the border because they saw what happened with California, and they're hoping to do that with other states. And their ideas were so bad they weren't resonating with voters. And so they, that's what, you look at the mandates. It was supposed, with the COVID, it was supposed about even protecting people, protecting Americans.
Yeah.
Well, when you have a wide open border, you can't vet what type of people with diseases are coming across the border or what type of possible terrorist entities are coming across the border. They put that they didn't care. It's not like they didn't know that could happen or will happen.
You're right.
They figure it's more important to get those votes. And they're putting us all at risk. Why? To retain power. And here's the thing. It's really not about Pete. It could have been anybody. If they're successful in knocking Pete down, they're going to walk right down the line. Now, here's why we have to hold the line. Because the leadership in the military right now, look, they're not protecting us. When I was a SEAL and they taught me how to shoot, they said focus on your front sight. Nothing else. You focus on your front sight and nothing else. And that's how you become an accurate marksman. Well, in the military, you focus the way it should be. You focus on combat efficiency and lethality, and nothing else matters. If you can do the job, if you're proficient in the job, that's what matters. When you do anything else, besides front sight focus, you're not going to be that lethal. You're not going to be that accurate. You're not going to be that proficient. You're going to make decisions like where you put trillions of military equipment to jihadists helping and destroying our way of life. So, look, if we don't stand up now, our country's in trouble. Like, our country's in real trouble because there's other adversaries like China, and there's two things that you need to be successful in war. The first is you need a tactical advantage. Well, guess what? We're losing out the tactical advantage to China. There's new generation warfare and capabilities that they have that we do not have. Two, one of the other things you need to be successful in a war is you need discipline. In the military, discipline is the fundamental block. Guess what? If you do not have discipline, if you do not have accountability, name me one general that was held accountable for that fiasco in Afghanistan, where guys are literally hanging off an airplane to get out of there, or whether they gave trillions. When I saw parades with the Taliban with Humvees and American helicopters, it broke my heart. Look, that's a problem.
Yes.
And we need to fix it. Pete can fix it.
There was only one American military officer who was held accountable for that disaster, and that was the man who spoke out against it. Remember Marine Lieutenant Colonel Stu Scheller? He was discharged and imprisoned as a result of his public criticism of the chain of command. But he was the only one that I can think of, Bill Brown, who was ever held to any sort of account, and that was for criticizing how disastrous that all was.
That's right. You know what's so funny? Guess who was in the room with all those SEALs today and all those veterans supporting Pete? Stu Scheller was in that room. You know how many Navy SEALs were marching with me? All three Navy SEAL congressmen were marching with me, right?
Yeah.
Congressman Derek Von Orden, Congressman Morgan Luttrell, Congressman Eli Crane. They're all the three Navy SEAL congressmen, and they were marching with us. You know how many? I had 50 Navy SEALs marching with me. I had over 200 veterans marching with me all over Washington. Why? Because we're trying to say to everyone in this country and the senators, look, this is the first time this has ever happened where you had this many veterans really take a stand, because we are deeply, deeply concerned with our nation. Because if you don't have the ability to protect yourself, then we're all at risk. I don't want to see another 9/11. You saw what happened in L.A. when they put DEI policies at first.
Yes.
You know what? You'll see a similar pattern wherever that's entrenched, where you have mismanagement and travesty and chaotic situations.
Yeah.
I mean, we can go across the board.
Well, when you put incompetent and distracted people in charge, you destroy any chance of succeeding in the mission. That really is the lesson here. And Alaska Senator Dan Sullivan, he brought some of this up today. He mentioned the Biden administration's obsession with all of this stupid nonsense and what it would mean to get rid of it. Here's that exchange. Take a listen.
President Biden did his first executive order as president was to focus on transgender surgeries for active duty troops. This is all I'm describing the woke military here under Biden over the last 4 years. If confirmed and you issue an order saying we are going to rip the Biden woke yoke off the neck of our military and focus on lethality and warfighting, how do you think the troops will react?
Senator, I know the troops will rejoice.
They will love it.
They will love it. And we've already seen it in recruiting numbers. There's already been a surge since President Trump won the election.
Bill Brown, is he right? Will the troops rejoice?
That's why they have issues with the recruitment now, because they realize how backwards they've become. Absolutely. You know what? When you have a good coach, when you know that your coach is going to do right by you, Guess what? You want to be on that team. You want to be on that team. That's an issue now. Who wants to be on a team that gave trillions of dollars of military gear to our enemy? Who wants to be on a team that withdrew and guess what? They didn't. They gave up the airports first. Who wants to be on that team?
Right.
We need. And here's something else. I heard the Democrats talk about, and the Pentagon officials talk about lowering the standards to get in the military. That's the wrong way, because warfare now is becoming extremely advanced. We need to raise the standards. And one of the things we need to raise the standards to recruit the type of talented people we need to recruit is similar to the corporate world. We have to have the same type of initiative that will attract. And, think about this. Alexander the Great, he conquered much of the known world at the time. And one of the incentives that he gave to his soldiers is they didn't have to pay taxes. Now, guess what? If you gave the ability where you served honorably for 10 years and you didn't have to pay taxes after that, you get a whole different recruitment pool. Okay, we got to start changing it up.
Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
That's a big idea. I like that idea. That's cool. And to your point, I mean, really, any whether it's a football team or like you talk about the coach analogy, or just any institution, impressive institutions attract people who'd like to join them. And if we can keep telling people about love of country instead of trying to divide them against our country, if we can make the military very impressive again, then all those recruitment issues they're talking about, they can be solved, can't they, Bill Brown?
They can be solved. I'm all about equality, and I love our female veterans, and there's no one I respect more. I was a JTAC, and I worked with female pilots. The truth is, look, I was a SEAL. I was in a premier direct action unit. There's differences between men and women. Not to say that some women can't meet those qualifications, but the number is extremely rare. But here's the thing that the woke military was doing. They wanted their results, so they lowered the standards to get the results. Well, this is war. The military is about warfare. If you're putting those soldiers and sailors and Marines at risk, along with those that serve with them, if they're not qualified to do those type of positions, that's the issue. Look, there's certain jobs that I would have a hard time doing. Like, I don't know if I'd be able to be a fighter pilot, because my math in college or in high school wasn't met those requirements. If you start putting people who don't have those requirements that are needed in that standard, in that proficiency to be lethal and efficient in warfare, they shouldn't be there. That's a problem.
Yeah. That's
a real problem. That's going to get people killed. Now, Pete had the courage to stand up to it when others wouldn't.
Right.
That's what's happening here. And that's the whole problem with this whole woke mentality.
For sure.
Is they cancel people because they want to retain power, and they don't care the results, the collateral damage that they'll cause.
It's awful. Hey, Bill Brown, finally, you bring all these, you alongside many other veterans, you show your support for Pete Hegseth today. Do you think that the Democrats on that dais got the message? Do you think they saw the veterans that were in that room? Did that give them pause?
No, 100%. Look, my buddy Rob Sweetman, another SEAL, was one of my, partners in this. We did something historic. We did something that's never been done before. Look, we had at 4 o'clock, actually 3:30 a.m., we woke up, had everybody on buses there lined up because we knew the agitators were going to be there. And because we stacked that room to the very back. And so when they got crazy, guess what? It was so easy, and the Capitol Police did a great job at escorting them right out of there. And you noticed how we represented our community with honor. You noticed you didn't see us. We were the adults in the room.
Yeah.
And when you compare their behavior towards ours, I think the message is loud and clear to reasonable Americans. Like, hey, these woke ideology, and they scream and cry, and they berate and intimidate others and cancel culture, because number one, the same reason why they open up the border. Their ideas are so bad they can't win in any type of debate. Their ideas are so bad that people are moving away from the party, so bad that they got to get in as many illegal immigrants as they can because they think that'll help them. Like, that's how their ideas are failing, their policies are failing, and they're destroying our military.
Yeah.
And that's why, look, this country's at a crossroads. If we don't capitalize here, we could be in trouble.
Bill Brown, thank you for your time today. Thank you for serving your country. I know Pete Hegseth has to be so proud to have the support of you and all those great veterans. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you.